Namaste, I'm Sree Shankar. In a leadership talk series, in collaboration with MyStartup TV, my guest today is K Srinivas Rao. In this episode, I'll concentrate more on Hanumana. We did a little of Rama and Lakshmana in the previous episode. I concentrate more on Hanuman and his bhakti, his devotion, his valor and strength, and what lessons we can learn from Hanuman. Ram Sethu is another great story we can tell our youngsters and our leaders as well. So, Srini, it's wonderful having you with us. Thank you so much. It's a privilege to have you as my guest the second time over. The first time we had fantastic viewership, and I'm happy to have you as my guest again.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, and I'm glad that the first one was received well.
Absolutely. We had about 15 to 1600 viewership. That was the best viewership that we had. So, really, really happy that you're here again.
Thank you. All yours.
Srini, we spoke about Rama, his life in the last episode, and we also spoke about Lakshmana to an extent. We spoke about Bali and Sugriva.
Right.
And then Ramana and Lakshmana, Ravana's dying. And we also spoke about, in this episode, we can start with Dashrath. Before Dashratha, Vishwamitra taking Rama and Lakshmana, joining him to the forest to kill Kartika.
Yes. So that's a very interesting episode. So the whole thing is Vasisht is the Rajguru. So in the commentaries it is written that what Vasisht thought Rama and Lakshmana was more theoretical, and how to put that theory into practice is where Vishwamitra comes into place. So when Vishwamitra comes, first Dashratha is not very keen because he says he's just a 14-year-old kid. How do you expect him to do it? And then Vasisht convinces him, saying, me and Vishwamitra are sure that he can do justice. What is interesting is the first encounter with a demonic force for Rama is Kartika. And Rama is very hesitant. So he says, you and Vasisht and my parents, everybody has taught me to take care of the women. We have to support women. We have to protect women. And here you are asking me to kill a woman. And that is where the first lessons of Dharma actually come into place. And Vishwamitra gives him that deep lesson where he says, the premise where you look anybody through any lenses, and if they are adharmic, then nothing else matters. And what she is doing is completely adharmic, so you can't give her the benefit of doubt based on her gender. And that is when he goes to war with Kartika. So that's a very interesting perspective. Why we call him Maryada Purushottam, or why the whole thing about Dharma starts from there. And that's a very beautiful conversations between both of them, where he says, this is completely reverse of what I've been taught all these years. And that is when the lens of Dharma comes into. So that's a very interesting thing of Kartika being killed by Rama. And so today, many times in a real life, many of us don't use that lens. So unfortunately, we fall into the myopic prisons of diversity, inclusivity, quotas and all that, and don't realize the base premise there was dharma. In today's work life or corporate life, the base premise is competence. So if I don't have the competence, then nothing matters. Then it doesn't matter what I am, what gender I am, what are my preferences, and all that doesn't matter. If I have competence, then you can start talking about the other things. So if you pick that lesson and you put to our real parlance, I think that is something which we need to be aware of. Dharma cannot be compromised, and that is what the big lesson comes from there.
Dashratha, as the father who lets go a 14-year-old to the forest, and then later, just before his coronation, he's forced to go to Vanvas. And as a king.
If you look at the whole of Ramayana, and Dashratha is probably the most humanistic character if you look at in Ramayana, who goes through all the emotions that we typically go through. So he himself as a king is a brilliant king. He is a king who's considered as wise, somebody who has very powerful, somebody who's extremely valor, and all that is there. In fact, his original name is Nemi, and Nemi, and he had so much of strength and power that he could conquer all the 10 directions through which you can come. And that's why he was given the name Dasharath. His Rath can come from any of the 10 directions. So he was a brilliant king per se. And he was also had all the flaws of a human, which is very interesting. So one of the fears that he always has is the curse given by Shravan's parents. So that is always there in the back of his mind. So he's always thinking that. And he's always trying to safeguard things around it.
So we just talk about the Shravan's.
Yeah. So typically when he was young and one of the days when he goes to forest for hunting, it's evening and he hears there is in the pond there is water gulping noise. And he thinks it's an animal and he shoots an arrow. But it is Shravan, who's a young kid whose parents are blind and who is taking them to a pilgrimage. And he's trying to fill water in a pot. And that gulping noise is of that. And Shravan, unfortunately, gets hurt and dies. At the time of death, he tells Dashratha, saying, I have no problem. That's probably my karma and that's why I'm dying. But can you please give water to my parents because they're thirsty and they're blind. And when Dashratha goes to the parents and gives water to them, and they recognize, and they give a curse to him, saying, like, we are at the time of our death, wanting our son, but don't have our son. You will also go through the same experience. At the time of your death, your sons will not be around you. And as karma plays the cards and fate has to play, when Dashratha is dying, none of the 4 sons are there. The 2 sons, which is Ram and Lakshman, are doing Vanvas, and Bharat and Shatrughan are at Kaikeyi's brother's kingdom. So they are also not there. So when he actually dies, he doesn't have them. And that is when the curse comes into place and karma takes its toll. So Dashratha as a king is, as I discussed, Jasratha as a father is probably one of those most lovable father characters you will see. Are completely mad in love with his sons and has a special feeling for Rama. Because every time he goes to his subjects, he always hears his great praise for Rama. And that is what he falls into, that where he believes that he has a successor who will take care of his subjects. In fact, there in some commentaries it is written, the subjects keep asking him, when you have such a wise successor, why are you still the king? So people are actually given far better TRP ratings to Rama than Dashratha. And Dashratha keeps doing that. In fact, so they say Dashratha died because of 3 heart attacks. He had 3 attacks, one after the other. So the first attack he has when he has to announce to his son that you have to go to the Vanvas. The second attack is when he sees Sita without her jewels and ornaments, and she is also in a sannyasi dress. And the third one is when they are actually walking out of the palace towards the forest. So he epitomizes the perfection or the dilemma that we all go through between our responsibilities and love. And Dashratha clearly shows cases that how much ever you love your kids, siblings, or whoever it is, you cannot shy away from your responsibilities. And responsibilities will always be one step above love. And so whatever plans you make, you still have to fulfill your promises. And that is what Dashratha signifies. In life, that is the difficulty we all go through. There are too many people we love. There are too many people who we have very soft corners for. But the biggest challenge is how do you ensure the balance of being responsible. So today, when you look at, so say these young kids who've gone to fight war in Operation Sindoor and all that, I don't think their parents loved anybody less than Rashmata. Yet the mothers were happy, the fathers were proud to send their young children to go and fight the war, because the responsibility will always be one up over love.
Anyway, Yalwa. Yes.
Some of these young who have gone to fight the
Yep.
war, and yes, and also in Ramayana, so in Ramayana, when Rama is walking into Vanvas, he's supposed to be around hardly 16 or 17. That's the kind of a age that is described. So when he comes back as to become a king after 14 years of Vanvas, he's around 30 or so. And so at 16, any father would have that, what we say, compassion and the love that, and how can you let go? Absolutely the fear, saying, yeah, how do we let go? The biggest challenge for Dasharatha is just one night before he had told everybody, his ministers, subjects, even Rama, that next day morning he's going to be the king. And 12 hours, the fate changes. So that's his big shocker kind of a thing.
We know that, Vishwamitra came and asked for Rama to join him in the forest. Why did Lakshmana also go? And Lakshmana has also gone along with Rama and Sita at the Vanvas. What was his reasons to go?
So when you read Ramayana or you read any scriptures, for any event, there are three possible answers. So the first answer is what we call is Adi Bhautika. This reason is a very logical, scientific reason. The second is Adi Devika, which is a part logical, part spiritual. And the third is Adi Bhautika. Sorry, Adi Bhautika, Adi Devika, Adhyatmika. Adhyatmika is purely spiritual answer. Now, when we try to answer this, the spiritual answer is very simple. Lakshmana is a avatar of Sheshnag. So he has to be there wherever Vishnu is, which is Rama. And hence, that is how it happens. The part spiritual, part logical answer is very simple, which is very interesting. When the whole yajna was done, and Dashratha, when he had to distribute the prasad among his three queens, he basically gives it to Kaikai and Kaushalya, and kind of forgets Sumitra. And both the queens look at Sumitra, and Sumitra looks at them. Both of them decide to give part of their thing to Sumitra. So the Kaikai's part which went to Sumitra was actually Lakshman. And Kaushalya's part which went to Sumitra was Lakshman. And Kaikai's part which came to was Shatrughan. And hence Shatrughan always shadows Bharat, and Lakshman always shadows Ram. And so that is the part logical, part spiritual answer for that. The complete scientific logical answer is very simple. When they were growing up, they had kind of a pact. Wherever Ram is going to be, he will follow his pillar. In fact, Ram says, I'm the only person in the world whose shadow is not black but white, because Lakshmana is always there with me and is always shining bright. So he always keeps saying that. So it is by default understood that wherever Rama is going to be there, Lakshmana is going to be there. I'm the only lucky person in the world. My shadow is never black. It's always white, because Lakshmana is there always as my shadow. And hence Lakshmana uses the same logic to talk to him. And Rama says, why you want to follow me? He says, if I'm your shadow, then how can I be here and you can be somewhere else? And that's why he follows them.
So moving on in the same direction, I would like you to speak on the Rama and Sita's Vanvas, 14 years of beautiful period before she was abducted.
So I think you gave answer. In the sense that it is supposed to be one of the most beautiful period they had. So Vanvas is typically again seen from different paralences. So the whole idea of Vanvas, even today for us, and we are all supposed to go to Vanvas. So Vanvas is nothing but the journey of the soul, and journey of the soul towards moksha through simplicity and suffering. So Vanvas represents that. Uh, are you ready to suffer whatever comes on your way? And can you be as simple as possible without all the baggages that we have? And people who successfully go through Vanvas, that is their soul getting journeyed, are the ones who can be able to reach moksha. And Rama and Sita signified that through the 14 years of Vanvas. So that's the message for us. Can you also start letting go of all the baggages and move on to that? Now, when you look at Ramayana and you look at what Valmiki has written, he's written some beautiful prose. It's kind of, if I may say, a beautiful way of how these two people look into each other, how they decide to be there with each other through thick and thin. And there are a lot of conversations which can make a lot of sense to us. Okay, how relationships need to be, how relations can sustain, why it is important to have that trust, why it is important to have that belief. And that belief is what keeps Sita alive for 1 year when she's in Ashopatika. Because she keeps recalling all those incidences and she keeps telling to... In fact, Hanumana comes when he meets Sita, he says, Ma, I can fly and I am capable enough to take you back. So let's go. And Sita says, no, it's a battle of dharma and adharma. And she, in fact, asks Hanumana, don't you believe in your Lord? So he says, absolutely, I believe in him. She says, let's wait. He will come and he'll take me. And all that confidence, all that thing comes because of the conversations between them that happens in the Vanvas. So one of the big things that lessons comes out from is we need to believe in relationships. We need to cultivate relationships. And that is what the conversations are all about. It also very beautifully describes the interplay between humans and nature. So when she asks all these questions, why is the forest like this? So some forests are very dark, some forests are very light. Why do we have so many flowers, so many trees? And some of those answers are very interesting. Where Rama keeps talking how it is important for us to sustain this ecosystem and not believe in taking away things. It is also deeply philosophical. So there is one question which Sita asked during the Vanvas. She says, why are you going and fighting with all these demons when they have not done any harm to you and me? And Rama says, can we shy away from our responsibilities? Right? Just because they have not done harm to me, but I'm still the prince. I'm still the possible king. And I need to take care of my subjects, whether it is a forest or whether it is a city. So just because I will take action when harm comes to me is not right. And that is something very important for us to learn today. So today, many of times, we are kind of disengaged, disinterested when things don't directly impact us. So why should I bother what's happening in, say, Pahalgam? Or why should I bother, say, what's happening in some other place? When I'm sitting very happily in Hyderabad in an AC room and, nice eating mangoes. And that is where we fall through. We need to be aware, and this is what Rama tells. We all have a role to play. It could be as simple as you writing one thank you gratitude card to the armed forces personnel, thinking what you're doing there. I'm very proud of that. Or I couldn't be there, but I still support you. That itself gesture is good enough. Rather than being very indifferent, saying, how does it matter? Or the same thing when there were floods last year in Andhra and, people lost. People are very different. Oh, Hyderabad, they say, oh, we don't have that. So Rama tells Sita, we cannot be indifferent. That being indifferent is not a other citizen. And we cannot shy away from our responsibilities, but we need to do our little bit in our own.
There are many other authors who have interpreted it in their own way. And with things like Lakshman Rekha is not there in the other. Valmiki Ramayana is not there. Second is Sita went to the Vanvas completely bejeweled. Whereas your B.R. Chopra's Ramayana shows her as a very, very sad looking lady who's gone to the Manvas. So, while interpretation can be done, they should not distort the story. So, what do you have to say?
Absolutely. So the problem with television is they always take cinematic liberties. So they are always that challenge is there because when you are telling a story to a large set of audiences, they take the cinematic liberties and sometimes that distortion creeps here. Yeah. So there is a very interesting story in Valmiki Ramayana also. So when Sita is walking into the forest and she is not without any jewels. And so people ask me this question. If she was not having any jewels, then what did she throw from when Ravan was abducting her? Ha, ha. So that happened because Anusya decided to give all her jewels to her. So when Sita is walking in the Vanvas along with Rama, she doesn't have any jewels and she is like any other sannyasi. When she walks into Anusya, and Anusya looks at her and says, My God, I have not seen any Pativrata like you, who decided to let go of her all the pleasures and walk with husband, knowing no what way to go. And she says, The best way I could honor you is by giving you these jewels. And she's the one who gives all the jewels to Sita. And in fact, those are the jewels which Sita drops when getting abducted.
In fact, she Ayodhya city, she goes like a bride, fully decked.
Yes. And so the beauty of Sita as a character is she isn't sad anytime. So she is happy. She is extremely angry with Ravan. She is extremely what we say, what we call Jhansi Ki Rani types, somebody who's ready to fight for honor and all that. Sad she isn't. She is never doubtful also. So there's only one time she has this doubt. When Ravan plays mischief by asking one of the shapeshifters to become Rama, cuts his head and shows her, see, I've killed your husband. And that is the time when she is shaken from her belief. Otherwise, yeah. In fact, if you look at Adhyamayat Ramayana or Shiv Puran, it is very interesting where Ravan comes and asks Sita's permission to abduct her. So Ravan comes one night before and says, Ma, I am bored of this life. I need mukti. Because technically speaking, Ravan was around 870 years old. And he had fought the 14th generation in the Surya Vamshis. So 14 generations before 14th and Rama was 27th, if I'm not wrong. So 13 generations he was alive. So he says, I'm bored of this vicious cycle. I want mukti. And then Sita gives him the permission. Okay, tomorrow morning you come and abduct me. And that is when the journey of your adharma will end. Because Rama will come to save me. And he comes and she is so pious and he cannot touch her. He lifts the hut through his hand by the ground. So like what popularly we see Hanuman taking the mountain, Ravan does something similar. So there are inscriptions where it is clearly shown that he is lifting the land. There is a hut. In that hut, Sita is sitting. And he abducts her and brings it to Ashok Vatika and keeps there. And that's why, interestingly, in Ashok Vatika, if you see, the vegetation is different from most of the Lanka. And Sri Lanka's vegetation is different from Ashok Vatika. So many of the botanists say it's because the trees came from back in Dandaranakaran. And from there, that is the trees came. So there are multiple versions of it, but in no version it is shown that she is sad about it. She is extremely... In fact, if you look at popular retellings today, she is extremely smart. She is extremely calm. She is extremely smart. Absolutely. So she is supposed to be one of the four most beautiful ladies, along with Mandodari, Tara, and so she is extremely beautiful, and she knows what she is doing. And so that all this being sad and deprived is a myth. There is nowhere, in none of the scriptures it is written. So that common thing comes around. She is neither the helpless Abla Nari, no way.
Avana abducts her, she removes her jewelry and kind of gives a trail for Rama to see where she's going.
In fact, some of our conversations with Ravan are very interesting in Ashokatika. And that tells the depth of hers. There she is talking and she is very logical. She is not begging or anything. So she's... So like typically Ravan is typical Ravan. So he uses all the possible means to impress her. Starting from the fact that he says, I will make you my queen, you will be the first queen and you will have all the jewels, to threatening her that you will be on my breakfast table and I'll eat you in small pieces, to showing that Rama has died, now whom are you living for? And here is head for you, to all those kinds of things. So whatever possible ways you can influence somebody, he does. And every time when she is having conversations with Ravan, she is checking on the same thing. What you're doing, is it dharmic? Right? When I have told that I have been wedded to somebody and somebody of my choice, then what right do you get to go and intrude? And Ravan always keeps telling the, the law of the nature, the guy who is the most powerful have everything. So one of the interpretations is that how societies are governed by a set of rules and how nature doesn't have a set of rules, and where the right of the might is higher. And Ravana is representing that. And Sita is representing the society and its norms and its ethos. And that's the beautiful conversations that you will see there.
Speaks not just of his bhakti or devotion to Rama, his valor, his strength. Your comments.
So, Hanuman is one of the most, interesting. In fact, if you look at Ramayana, all the Khans, Ayodhya Khan, the Bal Khan, are named after anybody except for Sundar Khan. And Sundar is another name of Hanuman. So if you look at that, there is a dedicated kind of chapter for him. Itself shows how important he is and how holistic he is and rounded. Typically, we always see Hanuman as somebody with a lot of strength. And again, in the popular tellings, because of the series, comic books and everything, he's always shown somebody with biceps and six packs. But Hanuman is extremely intelligent and wise, and which very few people realize. So the more you read, the more you realize how holistic he was in terms of Sarvaguna. So he knew. So in fact, his conversations with Ravan in his darbar are one of the most diplomatic conversations you can see. How diplomats even today they follow some of those principles. And how do you negotiate without breaking the maryada? How do you still push for your negotiation levers? Is very clearly articulated. In fact, when he is flying off to Lanka to find Sita with the ring, and he meets those three demons and Lankini later on, and he fights with all of them, he comes out. And yet when Sita asks him, who are you? And his one-line answer is, Main Ramdut Hanuman. He never gives his resume saying, oh, I fought Lankini, I beat her, I did this, Surfa, all. He is like very simple. In fact, Sita has asked this question to Hanuman saying, but do you guys think, are you ready to fight this big Ravan's army? And Hanuman's reply is very interesting. He says, Mate, I'm the weakest in that army. That's why they send me, because they said I can be collateral damage, I can be dispensable. So they send me. So just imagine if I'm the weakest and I could fly down here and do all this, just imagine what that army will look like. And in fact, Sita has a big radiant smile when she hears that. And he knows how to take care of her. He knows that she's been in this imprisonment for more than a year and she is losing hope. And how do you give hope? So he understands some of these nuances. So in today's world, as we call, do you have EQ? Managers should have EQ. You should sense it and then you should tailor your conversations And here he is doing all that. He just talks to Sita in a way that will impress her, that will go back and give hope to her, saying things are on the way, and he does those conversations with her. The same conversations he does with Sugriv. And Sugriv is worried and he's trying to run away, saying there are these two young men coming. They are probably sent by Vali and will kill me. He says, if Vali is very clear that Vali cannot come here on this mountain, and why can't we just have a conversation and check who are these two? And then he becomes the role of a sage and he comes and he is checking Rama. Oh, who's Rama? Hanuman.
Okay.
So Hanuman comes as a sage because Sugriv says, what is their real intent? Why are they walking up to me? So he comes and checks Rama and Lakshmana as a sage. And there is a beautiful conversation between them. So one of the interesting things in our Vedic literature is we have something called Tark Vitark. So Tark Vitark is you give a point, I'll give a counterpoint. And to counterpoint, we'll figure out the answers. And then the depth of your knowledge will come through that. So when these conversations are happening, so after some time, Rama smiles and tells Hanuman, do you think a normal person can speak all this which he speak? And that is when Hanumana comes into his real root and says, hey, no, I was not trying to test you, but Sugriv was concerned, so that's why I'm here like that. If you look at Shiv Puran and others, the spiritual answer is very simple. Hanumana is supposed to be Shivansh. So he Shiva's Ansh. So when all the gods decide to go for the big war and they all playing their roles to fight Adharma by Ravan, then Shiv decides to contribute by becoming Hanuman. When all of them are ready for the big battle, Shiva decides to contribute his role by being Hanuman. And that's why that philosophical depth in Hanumana is very high. Now, Hanumana teaches us many things. So there is a very interesting story and which I'll tell. So why is Hanumana in saffron color? So many people would have heard it, but still. So one day he sees Sita putting her sindoor. So he asks, Ma, why are you doing it? And Sita very casually says, this is the expression of my love for my Lord. And Hanuman's reply is, oh, you only love him this much, huh? I to love him completely. And he takes the whole sindoor and puts on himself. And that's why he becomes that saffron in color, in nature. So that vernicillin they call it. So it's kind of a red and orange kind of thing. So Hanuman also is orange-red. It's not typical orange-orange. And the beauty is, one of the things in Bhakti we always worried is, if I completely align myself to the greater good or the greater cause or to the deity, then what about my identity? Right? Then because I have to completely let go of my identity, then only I can have Bhakti. So there is a 100% alignment. So people get scared. And I always give this example, saying when you look Hanuman in that vermicillin or saffron color, where did he lose the identity? Right? So you still pray Ram and you still play Hanuman. Hanuman, even though he is completely aligned to Rama. So you don't have to stick out. And I always ask people this, when you have curry leaves, right, in your food, typically what is the reaction? So curry leaves, they do their job, they give the flavor, and yet they want to stick out to show their identity. And invariably you take out and throw, and then you eat. But instead of curry leaves, if you look at sugar, sugar is ready to completely dissolve itself, and it gives the flavor. It is not visible, yet you will say, yaar, chai mein kam thi, ya chai mein zyada chili. So in Bhakti is that. So we need to become more of sugar and less of curry leaves. We don't have to worry, will I get my credit? Will my identity be there? If I surrender myself to the, greater good, what will happen about me? The greater good will take care of you. Like Rama took care of Hanuman. They will take care of you. So whether it is your organization, whether it is your purpose in life, whether it is to nature, whether it is to God, whether it is to divinity, when you are deciding to do samarpan, do complete. Don't do these half-baked things. And that is where we lose out. And Hanuman teaches us that. He doesn't lose it. He always says, "Main Ram Dut Hanuman." And yeah, interestingly, Hanuman's biggest, what we say, characteristics is humility. And again, I give this story to all. When you see Hanuman photographs individually, you will see him with all valor and power. He's carrying a mountain, showing his chest and all that. But when you see him with Rama, he's always at his feet, right? And that is the biggest learning for us. In the sense, if you are good at what you are, don't hesitate to show you're smart, you're powerful and all that. But if you find even one person better than you, who's 1% smarter than you, don't hesitate to call him the expert and get into his feet and learn. Today, the challenge or the irony is I may be good at one, but that halo effect, I take it and I believe that I'm good at everything. And that makes me fall into that ahankara trap, where people will clearly know that you're not good at this. Why are you still insisting that I should respect you? And that's why we lose respect. Whereas Hanuman keeps telling that if you find somebody better than you, please get into his feet and learn from him, and he or she will teach you. And that could be anybody. It could be your office boy. It could be your child at home. It could be your whatever driver. Anybody it can be. Whatever they are good at, respect for that. So the dignity we need to bring back. Today we've lost that. Today we start believing I can do everything. I'm the whatever king of the world, and that status is again the function of capitalist economy and pop psychology. So we need to understand that. That is not helping to get you moksha. That is Maya at her best. She is going to drag you away from moksha. She is not going to make you get your balance sheet right before you decide to sign off from here. So it is important for us. And Maya is very good at her job. I always tell that. So she's very good at her job. She will always tempt you to say, no, get a bigger car, bigger house. And so we start saying, why do I need a car? Because it should take me from destination A to B. And then we fall into that trap. Oh, bigger, better, brighter, and more features and all that. So, like for example, the cell phones we use today have got officially stated somewhere around 180 features. And then on an average, we don't use more than 7 or 8. That's what it is. But yet, when you're going for a phone, then you want this, you want that, you want this, and we forget what was the basic purpose of the phone. So, and that is how it is. So, Hanumana keeps you rooted. And that is something which we need to learn.
When Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana are Devanvas, where and how does Hanuman appear? Second question is Tulsidas writing Hanuman Chalis.
So, when what we say in the 14th year of Vanvas is when Rama and Hanumana and Lakshmana meet, right? So Sita has been abducted, and Rama and Lakshmana are looking for Sita, and it is during those trails that they land up with Hanumana at Kishkinda, and that is where they meet Hanuman. And yes, and so that is so. Even today, if you look at Hampi, so that is where Hanuman's birthplace is there. The temple is there still. And Anjani's goddess Anjani's temple is there. So that is there. And that is where we meet. Now coming to, so there are multiple folklores around Tulsi Raman and Hanuman. Hanuman. So one of the most interesting one which I find is this. So when Valmiki has written his Ramayana and he's very proud and he's very happy. And he says, let me show to the world. So he sees Narad Muni passing by. So he calls Narad Muni and says, can you read my Ramayana and tell how it is? So Narad Muni reads the Ramayana and says, it's okay. Now, Valmiki is heartbroken. He says, what is nonsense? Okay, I thought he'll give me 5 on 5 on Google review. And here you are saying it is 3 on 5. So Narad Muni says, no, I've read one more Ramayana, and which is kind of better than this. And Valmiki, somebody said, who else has written? I thought I was only writing Ramayana. He says, let's go. So he takes him to Hanuman. So Hanuman has written Ramayana, and he's written on black marble slates with his nails. So Valmiki reads the Ramayana and then he starts crying. So Hanuman says, why are you crying? He says, you've written so beautiful. Now who's going to eat my Ramayana? And he says, so all this effort is gone in vain. So Hanuman smiles and says, I don't need Ramayana. I have Rama with me. You need Ramayana. So what he does is he takes all those marble slabs and throws into Ganges. He says, from today there is no my Ramayana, only your Ramayana exists. And it is said that after whatever 10, 11,000 years back, later, those marble slabs is what Tulsidas got. And those marble slabs impressed Tulsidas so much and influenced him so much that he wrote based on that Ramayana, which is Ramcharitra-manas or Tulsi Ramayana. And that is why Tulsi Ramayana is far more bhakti in Tulsi Ramayana than Valmiki Ramayana. Because they say it's originally written by Hanuman. And when Hanuman wrote, it was all bhakti mode. And that is what gets translated in here. So that's one of those folklores which people talk about it. Obviously, we need to, some of us will believe, some of us will not believe in it. But that is one of the stories that goes. Okay, why Tulsi Ramayana is so bhakti. And so interestingly, in Valmiki Ramayana, nowhere it comes he is God. Valmiki Ramayana very clearly states that Rama is human and he is evolving from a human to a superhuman and finally he has godlike qualities. In Tulsi Ramayana, it starts somewhere in the middle. He is not a normal human, he's a very nice human, kind human and he is evolving towards God. Whereas in Shiv Puran, Adhyatmak Ramayana and all that, he's God. He's Vishnu Avatar who's come and he's taken. So they're very clear. So no fooling around. He's come from the corporate headquarters. That and he's absolutely. Yeah. So that is very clear. But in Valmiki Ramayana, others don't talk about it. So they say, he's a human like you and me. That's why he goes through all the emotions and yet he evolves.
So what are the lessons leaders or youngsters can learn from Hanuman? And there are plenty.
Oh, there are plenty. So for me, 2 or 3, I would just stick to that. One is humility. And today that is one of the biggest challenges because in this need for affiliation that we currently have, where we want to be respected, recognized, pampered, liked, whatever you call it, our ego gets boosts every day. The dopamine keeps getting jumped every day. So every day when I have those 1,500 likes, 2,000 likes and 10,000 followers and all that. Whereas Hanumana says that is all not required. You can be still humble and yet you can be recognized, yet people will talk praises about you, yet people will go back and pray you and remember you. So humility is one. The second is Seva Bhava. Okay, unconditionally how you devote oneself to something. And Hanumana shows us that unconditional Seva one can do. So whether it is Hanuman, whether it is Shabri, some of these characters clearly show that when you decide to commit yourself to a cause, do it 100%. You can't go back and say, today I'm feeling well, so I'll do voluntary service. Tomorrow I'm not feeling well, I'll not do. Or yesterday night I got too late in the pub, so I don't have time. And those things very superficial. So Seva Bhav is something which you can always learn. The third one is what we touched upon, Bhakti. When you decide to give, 100% alignment. And that is what he does. And he doesn't think about, what is good, what is bad. In fact, there is a very interesting story. So people ask this, when Hanumana burned Lanka, why did his tail didn't burn? Why did his tail didn't burn? Right? So when he was burning, obviously tail also has to burn. So it says there are 3 things that didn't burn when the whole of Lanka was burning. That was Hanuman's tail, Sita, and Vibhishan's heart. Why? because dharma was there with all three of them. And that is what it clearly personifies. That the fourth attribute which Hanuman has is dharma. He always stood by what is right. And he never gave up that. And that's why he is one of the Chiranjeevs, So, as per the Vedic literature, he still exists among us. Even in Kali Yuga, Hanuman is there. And why? Because he is the epitome of some of these things. So, as leaders, we need to be able to do that. We need to learn that humility. Today, one of the challenges as leaders is we want all the glory. We want to be there. We hardly create space for others to blossom and all that. Oh, yes. So that is there. So if you look at all the battlefield fights and with strength, he also uses his intelligence. So all the battlefield fights where the first is those three demons he finds, Simika and others. He uses his strength to fight them. He uses his intelligence to fight them. The second one is the same thing. Twice he flies actually to get Sanjeevani Bhuti. So it's not once but twice he goes. And both the time he is going through all the odds, gets the herbs that save Lakshmana and others. And both the time he's up there doing it. To the major battles. In fact, there are one or two times when he could have killed Meghnad and Ravana, but he doesn't. And he says, it's not my job. This was somebody else to do, so let them do it. And so he shows great strength across. And that is what keeps, or that is what makes him one of those most interesting characters in the whole Ramayana. He not only has strength, but also has the intelligence. And generally, we are told by the Western literature that either you can have brawn or brain. You can have strength or you can have brains. And that again is a very false narrative, Here is one person who's extremely powerful and yet is extremely smart, intelligent to be able to do that.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to My Startup TV.